Hello and welcome to Word on Wearside Series 3. My name is Simon Forster. I'm a journalism student at Sunderland University in Year 2, and today we're going to chat about generations. The years I've chosen are between 1901 and 2024. The candidates I've picked are three business owners in the Sunderland area, and they're going to tell us about what it means to them.
Right, my name is Jonathan Pickup. I'm the proprietor of Jonathan Pickup Hair on first of all 10 Blandford Street. We've been here 12 years. We've been in the city centre of Sunderland for 12 years itself in this salon, and we was at another salon before that in Sunderland. So we're going to talk about generations. Now I've been given this piece of paper, but we're going to basically just go through what I think these are all about. 1901 to 1927, the greatest generation. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is The Greatest Showman. It is, to me, it's more sort of like the generation after sort of like, the Victorian times. I've got a 1920s house, so I look at that and I think, this is a generation. Fantastic. Best houses built in this generation. I would call it the best house generation rather than anything else. But yeah, amazing. 1928 to 45. This is more the war years, I would say. This is Second World War. A lot of a silent generation. I would say it's more of the war years. You really hear much about that. What do I know about the war? My great granddad was in the war. My grandma was in the war as well. The baby boomers, 1946 to 64. Now I was nearly that. I was born in 67, so I'm not really a baby boomer at all. But this was obviously after the war. An era where basically I would say more. Well, what was after the war? There wasn't really a lot, really, when you think about it. We didn't really have like the computers we have now. What did you do? Play cards and go to the pub. That was it. Now, Gen X, 65 since 1980. That's my era. Definitely the best era of all. I was born in 67. I didn't really know this before. We talked about this, but my daughter talked about it. Hey, Dad, you're in a Gen X area. So, it's. I think it was the most progressive era, 1980. We had a lot of things going on, a lot of sort of electrical things. I think I got my first phone around that time. I have a lot of great memories growing up in this era. There was no worry. Gen X era is probably, I would say, the best era of all. We had a fantastic time, and then I left school in 1983, which was the millenniums, which it was fantastic. It's when I left school, went to London, and everything was cheap. Everything was getting a bit more electronic. Do you know what I mean? I bought my first car then, and everything was reasonable. I went to London, had a great time. It was. You didn't need to worry about anything. It was so quick and easy. 96, it's time I came to Newcastle, opened up Tony and Guy. Like I said, everything was easy, an easy time. I would call it more of an easy era rather than a millenniums era. 97, Gen Z, I would say it's more of a boom with the property market. I bought my first flat in Newcastle. Everything was cheap. It was cheap as chips, and we had the biggest boom you can ever buy. But yeah, 2013, 2024, I would say that was more COVID. It's the biggest thing I can remember about that. Everything just exploded, and then all of a sudden it just went. It's the biggest thing from that era, really. COVID-19 hit that, and it never really left us, and I think it's going to live with us for a long time. My little girl, she washes her hands 20,000 times a day. We still got sanitizers here, and people still basically talk about it. And now it's been nearly 5 years. It's an era which is never going to leave us, really. A bit like the Second World War. We will never forget this. Well, I would say it was more of a Third World War, really, the way it's sort of come and gone. And, you know, we knew this was going to happen. We knew this a long time ago, but we never thought it was ever going to happen. Having a Gen Alpha, but I would say, you know, COVID sounds more like it. So that is it, I think. And that conclusion of the eras today. But thank you very much.
Hi, well I'm Mandy from Harrison & Brown Furniture. I've got a furniture store in Homeside in the city centre. The Greatest Generation, 1901 to 1927. Never heard it being called that before. I suppose, I don't know why it's called the Greatest Generation, if I'm truthful. Not very good on history. But that's going to be First World War. And if we try to live like that, we'd know what life was. We have no idea what life is now. 1928 to 1945, the silent generation. I'm guesstimating now because I'm not sure again. But looking at that, just coming up to the Second World War, so they're recovering, possibly. Again, I could be totally wrong. This is just my thoughts on it. The next few things, I have heard of some of these terminologies, baby boomers even, millennials, Gen X, only because I've had somebody working on my marketing. Baby boomers, I would not have thought it was 1946 to 64, but my mum, dad, quite a few uncles, well, you know, were born just after the war, so yeah, the baby boomers, everybody's come back from war possibly. Gen X, 1965 to 1980, that's going to be me. I have got absolutely no idea why they might be called Generation X. No, I'm a 72 and no, millennials, I thought that would be later, as in the 2020s, but 1981 to 1996. Millennials, I don't know. No, I thought the millennium would have been somebody who was born in the 2000s onwards, because my daughter's if I can get the words out, a millennial, but don't know why. Gen Z, 1997 to 2012. Again, not really got a clue. At least I'm honest. But Gen Z, nothing to do with it. It's the end of the alphabet. Is it anything to do with the alphabet? I very much doubt it. But 1997 to 2012, what sort of things happened? No, that's a stumper for Gen Z. 2013 to 2024, Gen Alpha. Is that them thinking of the alpha dogs or the alpha males or the top dogs? That's the generation to be. No, Generation Alpha. Very few of them I know. Literally. The baby, as I say, a couple of the baby boomers especially was a really surprise to me in the marketing aspect of things. And I haven't had a chance to go through really the other things. So no, but I think the Greatest Generation is a really nice terminology for that. Because like I said, if we had to go through, we think we are so hard done to. The kids of the day are so hard done to. They have not got a clue. Crikey, even when I was even when I was young, it was fantastic. You played in the streets, you played with your friends, you got told off by the police, you respected teachers. To be in the generation of 1901 to 1927. Ironically, I've just found out my store was built in 1905.
My name's Neil from Flowers by Jennifer, and we're here today to talk about the generations from the 1900s to the present day. What do we know about it? Well, what little I do know about it, obviously the greatest generation were from 1901 to 1927. People born that time named the greatest generation in my eyes because they probably lived through some of the toughest times during the First World War, etc., etc., and the depression of the early 20s. So they probably earned the title of the greatest generation. The silent generation was the generation after, from 1928 to 1945. And probably rightly known because of the tales that nobody would like to tell about the Second World War. And the tough times, which obviously they've been affected by 2 world wars immediately. So they've probably been dealt a double blow in life in this country. And then we've got from 1946 to 1964, after any major war, there's always the baby boomers. A population explosion, which needed to be to help build the country again. Coming out of the war, rationing, things like that. They came from a generation who could afford to live very comfortably, of the means, and things were reasonably cheap to live. Life was simple. Probably one of the best generations. X, which is my generation, 1965 to 1980. We knew a little bit about the war coming out of it, but we never. It was only hearsay what we know. We still had the values of who was right and who was wrong. Parents were always right. We were a generation of where we still respected our elders. And probably the last generation where you were born, you could probably afford to buy your own house on a single wage. And then we've got the millennials, which is the 1981 to 1996, which my children, well, the first of my children were born in that bracket. Coming into times when technology is taking over the world, everything is so easy to get online. Money seems to has no value, and what's the word for it? Not interest rates, but the cost of things just compared to wages has just spiraled. I don't know how anyone from that generation is ever going to be able to own their own house and car. And what have we got next? Generation Z, 1970 to 2012. Brought up with now social media's into the world. They know nothing else but social media, I should say, and it seems well they've lost the ability to talk to people, to talk. Why not just talk, to listen? I think that's completely gone now out of youngsters today. I'm not saying all youngsters, but the majority of youngsters. And the final generation Alpha, 2013 to 2024. Can we call it a generation? I don't know.
Thank you for listening to my podcast. This was brought to you by 3 business owners in Sunderland sharing their views on generations.